Hi, it's Alex Johnson. I want to break down some of the sounds that I made for Hyperlight Breaker. Um, I've actually got a couple of projects open here. These are all player skills, like specifically the amp ability, which is like the biggest ability that you have in the game. You don't get to use them that often. You can only have one of these. It's a slot that you fill, so it's a pretty important ability. Um, and so it's a nice big sound, and it's a big focal point to provide to impart like a sense of the world and what the aesthetic is, like projected and expressed through the player and through the player action. So gonna go ahead and play some examples. These are actually all in order of like when they were created, which is interesting. Um, or I hope it's interesting. I haven't done this before. Okay, here we go. So as I get through these, I'll come back and then we'll break them down, see how each of them were made. And you'll hear actually a lot of similarities. This one's a little weird because it's actually just um, implemented in the game. There's a bunch of these you can see. So implemented in the game, it's like a series of explosions. So it's just, it's pretty short sound in the project, or in the Reaper project. Here we go, brake launcher. This one I really like, and it's actually this is a number of different layers, so I'm excited to get through that one. Skill spear throw. This is actually, there's like a 4-month jump. So all of these were in like November of 2024, and then these two are like March, April of 2025. So using a lot of the same techniques, but have like even learned some other things that I'm able to bring in at this point, or at least maybe just got some finesse with how I'm approaching it. All right. So yeah, a lot of processing. Yeah, as I get through these, you'll notice. First, you'll notice I haven't done this before, so I don't have a script. Don't know exactly what I'm going to say, and I hope that someone finds it useful or interesting. And maybe I will have like some useful tips along the way, and maybe I'll share some techniques that I use that other people haven't, along with sort of just thoughts about sound design and what's important and how to approach it and all that. Again, it was like important that these sounds are punchy. It was important that they are energetic, that they like say hyperlight, and trying to find like the right way to do that in a sense that it makes sense for the players. I'm sorry, for Hyperlight Breaker, which is much higher fidelity than Hyperlight Drifter. So it's like maybe less synth heavy, but it is still sort of in a retro world. So you could sort of like build sounds off of like retro processes and use synthesizers a lot, but then try to like ground it and try to make it sound like it's like, well, yeah, it's that kind of sound, but it exists in a real world, and I'm using my real ears to hear it. You know, it's the difference between like directly hearing Game Boy music versus like hearing Game Boy music in the other room, right? It's like, here's a device that somebody's using, so here's this sort of like, this was the way that we conceptualized, like, we're going to take Hyperlight Drifter and bring it into like an actualized space. I don't know if that's the right word to use, but whatever. Okay, so when you're doing sound design like this, of course, you break it down into components. And these components, the two things that you think about are, when does this thing start? And so timing, and then also what's it attached to? right? So these sounds, the first two are attached to the player, right? You have the charge up, which is attached to the player. You have the release, which is on the player. Player's jacket and whatever, they're swiping away. And then you have the projectile, which this is being piped directly to your ears when we have it in this context, when it's being generated. But in the game, it's attached to that projectile, and you hear it go away. Okay. Oh yeah, and we also we did a fun thing in Breaker where use because the player doesn't really move that fast. You could kind of assume when something's passing by you, like if you're in front of it, it hasn't gotten to you yet, and when it passes you, it's gone. There's things move faster than the player. So we use the cone attenuator, like the orientation of the sound, for projectiles to determine pitch. So when something's coming towards you, it's high pitch, and when it passes, it's low pitch, which in reality, in real life, is because sound wave being generated by something, and it's so many pulses per second, but it's like speed of sound, Doppler effect, like actual real Doppler effect, would be kind of difficult to do. You'd have to be calculating positions of everything way too much, but you do have relative orientation in Y's as a variable that then you could just map to pitch. So that's disabled when you're shooting something, but if another player shot this, it would actually, as this thing zips by, it would, it would get a little bit of extra oomph to it. Okay, so let's start breaking down these sounds. Final cross, charge, start. So that is this sound. The first thing that we have, the most important thing that we have, let's start there, is this. Kind of like a lot going on here, right? If your speakers are good enough, you can hear like that sound. That is from one of these. Yeah, I think it's this one. If I turn this off, then it's a very boring sound. Okay, so this is, that's Filterverse from Polyverse. I really like Polyverse's plugins. I liked them a lot for everything that I did at Heart Machine. It was very, very applicable. What I'm doing here are a lot of resonances, or really strong resonance. So it's going to poke up certain frequencies. And then these envelope followers are taking the amplitude of the sound that's coming in and sort of controlling a knob, right? And you can smooth it by having longer attack and release, or you can have kind of wild ones by, if you watch the meters on these, you'll see them. It can be kind of very wiggly, right? There, that's a good place to see it. So that's where you're getting the sort of the kind of energy squeal of it, are sharp resonances moving around very quickly. And then also that rise at the end was something that wasn't really something I was intending, but I kind of liked it, so I kept it. And then there's another sound here too, which is kind of key, and then I'll go through what the bass layers are. This is this one. I'm using Valhalla frequency echo. And frequency shifting, if people don't know, I'll pull up my, see, I'll pull this up here. So you can see on the spectrogram, which is going to break down frequency, see these things going up, the frequencies going up. If you pitch something, if you speed it up twice as much, then it's multiplicative, right? So if you play a note in a piano and it's 220 hertz, and then you go up an octave, and then it's 440 hertz, and you play those notes at the same time. Then if you pitched that up, then if you were playing the next two octaves up, then it would be 880 hertz, right? Maybe an easier way to think about it is like 100 hertz and 200 hertz. If you pitched them up, be twice as much. But if you frequency shift them instead, if you like add frequency to it, that if you take it from like 100 to 150 and the one that and like the 200 to 250, just take everything and just like shift it up. Like that is different from pitching, and it destroys sound. It makes it sound like metal because metal has random harmonics, and you're taking a sound, which is like a sound is built from like a lot of harmonics that kind of like work together, and then that's the sound that you hear, like my voice or something. And if I should have a better example instead of just talking a lot, but anyway, it's a old technique. The technology to do this existed a long time ago, so it is a retro sound, and to do it in combination with a delay, which is what this plugin does. It takes a frequency shifting and a delay and puts them together. So as you delay it, you're sort of like do 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 do, but not pitching or frequency shifting. So you get this interesting sound out of it, right? If I turn all of this off, you get that. Turn them on, you get this. It's primarily this, right? So that's pretty important. And that was a nice way to get like a rising tone. A nice way to get a rising tone for a charge up, I found. If I go through the other sounds that are in here, there's this feather wing whoosh that I pitched down a bunch, and then I even EQ'd to sound even more like kind of lo-fi, but in combination with this spell building block and like a sweet explosion. Then all together, let's see, those three. Let's see. There we go. We'll just hear these three together. That's sort of the base of everything, and then these two are kind of like the interest, right? And again, that happy accident of that low frequency coming up on this one actually goes with this. Like they all kind of work together, and I thought, oh, that's nice, because like as sound designers, you want to use as few layers as possible, and honestly as little processing as possible, but not necessarily on these sounds, which is why they're fun, which is why I'm showing them. However, the next sound does not have much processing at all. It's pretty straightforward. This one is library polls that have been pitched. Like this one's pitched almost to double, right? But they are, oh, sorry, you're hearing a lot. Let's see, let's just play just this sound. I wanted a very grounded sound. So it's a very Foley heavy sound. It's the jacket, it's the sword moving in the air, not like, lightning sword or anything like that. It's just like, it's very physical, because the other two sounds are so noisy. Like there's no room for this to be like zaps. It's just straightforward. Okay. Now we get into our projectile start. And the projectile start, let's see, we actually have a number of different sounds in here. I categorized these actually into two groups. I have a sidechain source and a sidechain target. So this is basically, I'm running a compressor on the target one, and it's got input from this guy. So this one is sending Yeah, okay. Sorry, the short way to say this, this one ducks this one. So when this one's playing, this one turns down. It's happening in that compressor. Um, and the nice thing about that is that you can have sort of like a more aggressive sound here and then like a bigger sound here. And they'll sort of like fold into each other. Like this will get out of the way for this one. And otherwise you sort of have a mess. So if I play without it, it's just kind of a lot. It's mostly you can hear it like right here, like where this one is ducked and this one has clarity and punch. It's a slight thing, but like I know, but you know, sound design is a lot of small choices sometimes, or they're important enough to point out because I feel like it's sometimes you dial everything to like, you know, you crank it up to 110, and then other times you have it at like 7. But each are important. Okay, so our first set here, first sound set, is we've got Filterverse again. I'll play with it on, and I'll play with it off. It's a rock impact. So again, short attack, short release, pretty high resonance, high drive on this one, and you can watch this like wiggle, right? So that's how we're getting that sound. I actually have a transient shaper up here. All of these tracks are like feeding into this track, right? So this is like, these are kind of, they're hitting these effects together. So if I turn off the transient shaper, actually I haven't listened to this in a while. Yeah, it sounds kind of flat, right? Versus that's a lot more punchy. So this kilohertz transient shaper I like. It's pretty straightforward. You can get information about them as you run your hand over the tooltip. But basically the attack, it's going to take like when a loud sound starts, it's going to make that sound even louder. And then here, you can see this dip here, right? See, so it's kind of like showing you what it's going to do to the sound. It will dip it down even after the loud part. And then the sustain is like, well, it's going to bring it actually back up like more than the original sound was, which you could just leave it as is. But this was like this was a good way to get it to be punchy. Like these together make it very sharp and punchy, and then this gives it a bit of life at the end. So transient shapers, although I knew how to use them for a long time, and I knew what they were, it took me a long time to like realize that, much like sidechaining, sometimes it's the thing that you need to like, because I you know, in the past I might have worked on this and been like, man, I kind of like I got it, and it's like it's pretty good, and then I would be like trying to find a different sound, or I would be like cranking stuff on this when really what I needed was this to like really bring it out, especially like that the like those like sounds at the end, like that stuff at the very end, that is brought out by, I think, the sustain on the transient shaper, or the attack, maybe, I don't know. Yeah, so without it, it's just kind of quiet in there, but yeah. So this electric arrow hit, seriously, it's just a library pull. So just a library pull. But together, ungroup these, yeah. Together, like it just kind of sweetens it a bit, and then also that just give it a nice phasey fire, just to sort of fill it out. So it's not just thunks and sparkles and stuff. Instead, it's also got a bit of the gaps are filled. Here we go. Sidechain target. Oh yeah, and I was thinking in a lot of cases like fire and water, and like water, if you process it you can get electric. Fire is actually pretty similar to electric if it's there with other things, so it's a nice pleasant way to kind of get like energy and electricity and plasma. And to say all that, like having a little bit of fire in there actually can do it. And water and rocks and these kind of things with the processing that I'm doing would make pretty good sounds. Here we go. Is our next layer. Yeah, so oh yeah, I didn't need to. These are still lit up because even though I've soloed this, these feed the side chain. So all right, let's go through what I've done here. In this case, I do have Saturn. I don't think I'm doing much with it. Oh yeah, just sort of bringing back some sparkle. Something you can do with distortion is like if you're shaving off a lot of high frequencies, distortion will bring them back, because distortion does, like if you imagine a waveform and audio, the audio as it's going up, you know, imagine a waveform that's like this, and then imagine you distort it. So when you distort it, it's going like this. It's outside the bounds, right? So the point where you have like a low frequency, which is a sound like this, but it's like clipping, and then like the distortion does like it'll kind of add some fuzz and shape to where it's clipped off. Digital clipping is when you have distortion where it's just like it's over the bounds, and so you just hear it's just like a lot of clicks of like the sound like getting out and not being rounded off, and it's not interesting, it's not good. But like a distortion plugin will like crank the sound up, do something interesting when it's up here, and when it's up there, you get higher frequencies because of that shape, right? Instead of just the original, like say a sine wave, right? So this sound, as I was doing the other processing, you end up in a place where like, hey, it sounds good, like I got a lot of the character that I want, but it just kind of sounds lo-fi. And yeah, actually, let me bring back my monitor effects. And yeah, it's just kind of like missing some stuff up there. And if we turn this on, you get a little bit of it back. Okay, so let's talk about this zap. So I have pitched it down to like 1/3 speed. So it's like an octave and a half down. And that's what the original sound sounds like. Well, let's turn Saturn off also. Yeah, so Filterverse. I kind of went nuts with this one. They have a Decimate is a pretty sweet bit crusher with a lot of different settings. And then doing some of that. Oh yeah, and there's a reverb, and as you slide the reverb values around, you get pretty interesting modulation. Like, so you get cool tails. But a lot of envelope following. These, I'm using pretty long values, but with the Decimate, that's where I'm getting a lot of the sound for that. This is another one where I might have, and I do this sometimes, you know, I'd be like, because I keep my, I use a feature in Reaper where once I've got effects on a track, like whatever track that I have clicked, so if I say like Ice Arrow, it plays through the track that I've got selected. So it's a good way to sort of like find new sounds, or to, you know, you can sort of like be building a chain and like, well, let me try something else. And so sometimes I'll do that where like I'll make a sound, I'll not be quite happy with it, and so I'll just duplicate the track, and mute it, and then start trying other sounds and continuing to tweak. And it looks to me like, and I did this a long time ago, looks to me like I duplicated this and then changed a lot of settings. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of close. It's a bit more square wave. This is like there's a low resonant filter on one and a high peak on the other. So a low pass and a high pass. So yeah, those two are working together in that way. And then just another fire whoosh. This one's not pitched or anything. I've just got a little bit of EQ on it, trying to bring out the part that I wanted. In fact, let's just let's solo that. Yeah. I mean, that's sort of like the string rocket kind of sound, right? So to give it like that sense of like forward motion. Yeah, sorry, let's listen to the whole thing together again. All together now. I realize I closed the video. Let me bring the video back. I'm sorry. Whoop. Here we go. All right. It's taken me a while to get through this, so how about I'll just do another video sometime soon to break down the next one. There's some pretty neat stuff in here, I think. All right, thanks.